Welcome back to Seriously Funny. I'm your host, Mashnor Kabir, and I write on napkins. This week, we take a look at the past and feel like absolute dog do, because hindsight makes everyone sad. You know what else feels like dog do? Being sick. You guys heard for the first time since I made them nearly 1 year ago. At least I think it was a year ago. It might have been in the spring. I don't remember. But you heard an archived episode, which means I have one left. So hopefully I'll be making another one in 2 weeks when I have a short break from school. But last week I was sick, and you can still kind of hear my congestion still. I thought it was mostly gone, but I guess I still have it a little bit. So forgive me if I cough at any point. For most likely it'll get edited out, but if I for some reason don't edit it out and I cough into the microphone, sorry. Anything, my voice, my sound, congestion really sucks. We're probably going to talk about that more later, but last week I was sick. You just still hear it in my voice today, but after 3 years, after 4 years, after 3 years, it finally got me. The big C, the SARS-CoV-2 COVID-19 stupid thing got me. My dad got it, and I probably got it from him. I wore a mask every day, even after the mandates were lifted, and I got the stupid thing from my own house. This isn't even the first time it happened in my house. My younger brother had it last semester, and I avoided it, but this time it happened. I'll talk more about that at the end of the episode for people who cared my experience with COVID. We all know what hindsight is, yeah? Hindsight describes the act of looking at the questions and qualms of the past after having experienced the results and or consequences of those questions and or qualms. You wonder if you should have asked that girl out in high school. Turns out she goes to the same college as you. You ask her out in college and it goes great. And you wonder why didn't I ask in high school? Also, other than my voice sounding like god dang garbage, I have put a bunch of acoustic foam up, so if the audio sounds a bit more contained and less echoey and better, that's why. So I got that going for me. If voice sounds worse, I made the room sound better. Anyways, other than the high school example, you get offered a bright looking pill at a party you went to, 4 years of addiction and 1 year of detox and rehab later, you look back and wonder why you ever accepted that pill. That's hindsight. And you know what? I'm going to be biased about hindsight. It sucks. Awful. I don't know why I called it biased, because that's the wrong word. I'm just applying a value judgment. Does this podcast talk about how value judgments probably shouldn't be made? Yeah, but who are you to put a value judgment on my value judgment? Yeah, that's what I thought. Go make your own podcast and complain about mine. This is why all press is good press. There's a marketing lesson. And now that we've had that cute little PR lesson, PR means public relations, by the way. You've heard of PR people and whatnot. It means public relations. It's important for politicians, of course, but these days it's reasonably important for anyone that's trying to be well known in the world. Most people have the sense to not say anything too offensive, but most politicians grew up with a silver spoon in their mouths for their entire life, so the idea of consideration and sensitivity doesn't exactly come too easy to them, so they need PR people to tell them, you can't say that, it's offensive. Very fun. You could also, just get canceled, as one does. Have I strayed very far from the title of this episode and the original point of the script? Absolutely. Did I realize that this topic could be 7 minutes? Yep. Am I panicking while writing the script? You bet, yeah. Let's slow down and just finish it up, and I'll come up with something else. Worst comes to worst, if I finish hindsight too quickly, I'll just come up with something else. Hindsight is pretty natural. At least it seems that way. Although, yes, we have talked about judgment and how it's not the best to do, and honestly, most helpful people of the it's hindsight just isn't very helpful most of the time. However, humans seem to like to judge. The reason probably derives from social evolution. If you do bad things, you get judged. You don't want to be judged, even though you like to do it. Thanks for making every human being a hypocrite, Mother Nature. So hopefully you don't do bad things. Just a couple weeks ago, we talked about evolution and how it's the source of everything in terms of why people are the way they are. There you go. That's why judgment. This love of judgment isn't just for other people and things, though. It's for ourselves as well. And who's one of the dumbest people that we all know? our past selves, of course. So I've talked about it before on the podcast, but when I look at some of my past content and I see some of the things I say or write, a lot of it's on my blog, it's either incredibly cringe or completely stupid. This love, where we go. Anyways, when we learn things, we really love to talk about how we learned things. And one of the ways we can talk about how we're really smart is by talking about how we used to be really stupid. The insinuation, of course, being that we've since learned from our stupidity and we're smart now. I mean, when an anti-vaxxer comes up to me and says, I used to believe in vaccinations, but I've learned since then, I look at them in a completely different light than if they told me that they were just an anti-vaxxer. Instead of thinking they're stupid, I think they're stupid and egotistical. It's really helpful knowledge, actually. Side note on that one, if someone says that, chances are they probably had a bad experience somewhere. So honest to God, it does give you information on possible points of weakness within the person's anti-vax beliefs, which you can use, but that's rhetoric magic for another day. So when we get the answer to a question, or we figure out what may have been the right course of action, heck, if we find the wrong course of action and assume another course would have been the right decision, also known as regret, we'll still always look back at the fork in the road and will always participate in hindsight. And it sucks. Hindsight isn't something that anyone does and feels good. That's not completely true. Yeah, I guess some super optimistic people look back if they made the right choice and think, man, I'm so glad I made that decision. Here's what usually happens, though, because it's not that one. Let's go through some of the routes I just mentioned. First, let's bring back the first example I gave, asking that girl out in college instead of high school. This is an example where you had a decision, you made no decision, and later on you finally made a decision that, for example's sake, we'll consider to be the right choice. However, like I stated in the example when I first brought it up, very few people in the situation would sit down and think, man, I'm glad I asked her out 2 years later in college. No, most people are going to sit down and think, why in the world didn't I ask her out 2 years earlier in high school? Hindsight will make them sad because in their mind, they lost, in this example, 2 years of good times. And wasted time hurts people's souls because everyone is afraid of death. But that's another episode which I've already made. The next example I gave was taking a pill at a party. Don't do drugs, kids. In this example, there was a decision, you made a decision, and for example's sake, we'll consider it to be the wrong decision. And you know what? I'll go ahead and blanket it and say it was the wrong decision. Don't take drugs, and don't take drugs from strangers at parties. Anyways, in this hypothetical, you look back and you regret your decision. You wish you'd never taken that pill, and again, hindsight makes you sad. What's worse is the amount of self-judgment that comes from these examples, because whenever we use hindsight, there's one word that makes us really just want to call ourselves dumb, and that word is obvious. The answer in hindsight always seems obvious. You missed a question on an exam, you get the exam back with the right answer. Oh my God, how could I miss that? It's so obvious. When you asked that girl out, when you asked out that girl in college and she liked you back, why didn't I ask in high school? She liked me back. It was so obvious. Why did I take that pill? Obviously, it would be addictive. Because in hindsight, the answer is always obvious. And the reason, I almost said reason, the reason is because you know the answer. We've all known that person that when they're asked a question, they either act dumbfounded or they say something completely and utterly stupid. And when they hear the answer, they say, oh yeah, I knew that. Yeah, great. In hindsight, of course you did. If I told that to a professor after an exam, they'd kick me out of their office. Although it's important and great to learn from the past, it's not great to sit there and hate ourselves or hate our past selves for our decisions. More on that in a bit, but the title of this episode, unless I've changed it, which is completely possible, hindsight makes everyone sad. Hindsight just makes you look back and feel bad about either making the wrong decision or not making the right one soon enough. And here's the thing, especially about not making the right decision soon enough. Let's go back to our college couple, yeah? Here's the thing about humans, especially the teenage ones. They change a lot, and they don't know who in the world they are or what they want to be. Some do, but most don't. there's a massive chance that if, going back to the hypothetical, you did ask out that girl in high school, the relationship wouldn't work out because neither of you knew enough about yourselves to have an actual personality. And over time, things change, people change, priorities change, and you drift apart. However, since you didn't ask in high school, in college, things coalesced in just the right way that it worked out. Unfortunately, in life, the answer isn't simply based on actions. It's based on context, based on the variable of time. Because depending on the time, things change. Things depend. Looking back and telling yourself about how wrong and dumb you were not only makes you sad, but it's also usually completely and utterly wrong. Sometimes it's not wrong, like the drug example. Yeah, probably shouldn't have taken that pill at the party. However, sitting there and hating yourself, it's not going to help you. At the end of the day, your past self did the best they could with whatever they had going on at the time. Were they stupid? Probably. Whose past self wasn't? Is that okay? I don't know about okay, but I know that it's part of the human experience. So let's not apply the value judgment on this one. Now, the answer I would love to give here is never look back. Unnecessary. Whoa. I wrote stuff. The answer I would love to give here is to never look back. The past is stupid, unnecessary, dumb, and it probably doesn't exist. Although I want to say that, in hindsight, maybe you should never look in hindsight. When it comes to the past, you've heard me talk about how the past is stupid, but my general philosophy or my general take on the past is this: learn the lessons, burn the books. The past is a gold mine of lessons to learn from, especially when life decides to kick you in the face, because in those situations, life is usually trying to tell you something. It's just not very nice about it. However, once you've learned the lessons from your past, dug up all your childhood trauma and some scars, which we'll talk about in a few weeks here, once you've squeezed the past until the pips squeak, if you know where that saying comes from, your brain is massive. And if you don't know where it comes from, study more history. After you've done that, go ahead and tie the past to a big old ship, set it on fire, and let it sail like the Vikings once did. Once you've learned the things you need to learn, let that crap go like when you get home from a Mexican restaurant, okay? I may be biased here because my past doesn't exactly paint me in the best light, but I don't like the past. I think it's better gone. Learn the lessons and burn the books, yeah? And don't look in hindsight. It's not worth it. It's completely useless. It just makes you sad. And most people don't consider the time variance or life or context. Heck, people have a hard time empathizing with their past selves. It's called the hot-cold empathy gap. You have a hard time. Empathizing is hard enough, but doing it with yourself is rough. We all do the best that we can. And the reason that it's rough is because of hindsight, actually. But we all do the best that we can. Sure, the best may not be the greatest decision for us, but it's what we can do in the moment. If you really want to look back and be sad, fine. I have an episode titled Be Sad, for God's sake. I'm not going to stop you. But I'm here to tell you it's not very constructive, and that's something you should know before you sit there and mope. Which, again, power to you. Sometimes you want to mope like I'm about to do right now as I talk about my sickness, because that's all for the meat of the podcast. I'm going to complain about being sick again. I haven't been sick in 4 years. This sucked. Again, I had COVID. And what is a podcast if not a place for me to lament my personal problems in the public void of 10-ish people that listen to this podcast. And bless your 10-ish people souls, especially the ish part. Honestly, the actual illness didn't hit me that bad. Oh, before I get going, I said Lament a second ago. There is a song on YouTube. It is just piano and instrument. It's an instrumental. It's by Somnium Music it's titled Lucy's Lament. It is amazing. Listen to it. It is very good. I'll check if it's copyrighted because most of his stuff isn't. If it's not and it's free to use, I'll shove it at the end of the episode. Please go listen. It's so good. It's amazing. Anyways, so the actual illness, COVID, didn't hit me that hard. My hair looks a bit ruffled, so maybe I got the sick look going on. But the actual illness didn't hit me that hard, honest to God. I thought I had strep throat instead of COVID. That's how much I just didn't have any COVID symptoms. I had no shortness of breath. I had no heaviness on my chest. I didn't lose my sense of smell or taste. I mean, the smell got diluted a little bit. Like, it was harder to smell stuff, but it wasn't impossible. I could still smell. I didn't even have like diarrhea or anything. Everything was fine. Like my nose didn't really run. My nose didn't really get stuffy. Like even now, I can breathe just fine. I just sound like goddamn garbage because congestion involves a bunch of stuff going in your face. It also messed up my left ear. Like the hearing out my left ear is more messed up than my right ear because of the goddamn congestion. At least that's what I'm hoping. Maybe my left ear just stopped working. Who knows? But nothing really happened. When I was trying to sleep, it was a little bit stuffy in my nose, I guess. But, I did have body aches for one day, and I don't take Tylenol or painkillers or anything, so those body aches were real bad for that one day. It's just your entire body hurts. And I will say that it sucked. Headaches went away after about 2 days. But yeah, the body aches went away in one day, headaches in 2 days. Overall, the pain didn't last for very long, except for one. You know what symptom I did have the entire way through, all the way? The full week, I had a sore throat, and let me tell you about what I do with my life. Okay, I go to college, and other than the fact that I missed 2 exams, I didn't miss them. I had 2 exams on Wednesday, so I had to get better by Wednesday, and I did. So I was able to go take my exams. So I didn't have homework from those 2 classes, and other than college, I'm a housekeeper. Right, I'm a public area housekeeper. You know what else I do? I'm a YouTuber, a podcaster, and a soon-to-be narrator. Housekeeping goes out the window because I can't go to work with COVID, and like I said, the only symptom I had was that my throat hurt like crap. I can't make a YouTube video if my voice sounds like garbage. I can't make a podcast if talking for prolonged amounts of time hurts my throat, and I can't disrespect authors by narrating their stories when my voice hurts and sounds like crap. So I'm sitting at my home for a week, and I can't record videos or podcasts or start my narrations. Now, of course, if you can't do one part, you just do another part. So I didn't use that as an excuse to not create. I wrote 2 YouTube scripts, which I need to completely rewrite both of them. I drafted another original story, and I wrote this script while I was sick. So that means I'm already 1 week ahead on podcast scripts, meaning that making an extra volted episode is going to be a lot easier when I get there. So although I couldn't record, I could script. Sad about the narration because that's legitimately, I can't start narrating until all of this gets better. I can't edit something unless I have an audio waveform ready to edit, and I can write my own stories, but that has nothing to do with other authors and narrating their stories, and I already got permission from one of them, and it's already been narrated by 2 other channels that are much bigger than me, which really sucks because I would have been able to get mine out first if I hadn't gotten sick, because I had so much time to do it. I got all my homework done and everything. I was ready to go for it, and then I got sick and it just sounds like garbage, which really sucks, and I still do. I still am congested, so I'm probably going to edit this episode and see how bad it actually sounds, not just to me and my biased bone conductivity, whatever my voice sounds like. I'll hear what it sounds like to you. And if it's okay, maybe I'll come back and record. Hopefully this congestion leaves soon. It sucks so much. It's like the only thing that I need is my voice to make everything I make and do all of the things I do. And the one thing that was impacted for the longest by this stupid illness was my voice. So yeah, very sad. Where we go. So yeah, hopefully soon you will hear about my new narration channel. Once I have something up and ready to go on it, I'll go ahead and talk about it. Until then, that's all for this episode of Seriously Funny. I have not hit time yet, so I don't really know what I have to talk to. Once this episode gets cut down, it'll be super short. It'll be in the 19-minute mark. I think, there's not much really I can talk about, unless you want to hear about... I can talk about my exams real briefly. Electromagnetic fields. I hate transmission lines. I could barely motivate myself to study. I failed that exam. Semiconductors. That's what I want to do with my life. That is the actual thing that I entered college in electrical engineering for. I did pretty well on that exam. At least I haven't gotten my grades back for either of them. I'm just saying what I felt. For the semiconductor one, he gave us a practice exam, and it had some similar questions, which is really cool. So there's 2 questions I'm sure I did correctly, and then 1 question I should get points on, and then another question where maybe he'll mark something off. I'm not sure. But in general, it should be a high B, low A sort of thing. At least we hope. That's before a curve. And yeah, I'm very excited about that one. yeah, that's how exams went. AC exam I failed. Yeah, of course I did. But yeah, that is all it is, I believe. As do I. Oh, anime. I finished the Genius Prince Brings Nation Out of Debt, whatever it was. I've been watching it for the past like 50 episodes of the podcast. You've heard me say it. So finally finished that. Started watching Classroom of the Elite yesterday. And music-wise, Lucy's Lament. I've been listening to a lot of Somnium music. It's just instrumental. Dark Somnium is a narrator on YouTube who narrates stories like I want to do. He's so much better than I'll ever be. The guy sound designs everything so very well, and he makes his own music for those stories, and he sometimes posts the music for the stories, and they're really good, and I've been listening to it a ton. Lucy's Lament, like I said, is really good. There's another one titled We Are Everywhere. I've been liking that one a lot. And then there's some other ones that you heard in the God's Not Dead, He Abandoned Us. After writing that story, I got sick. Maybe God got real upset about that whole abandoned us thing. But I had 3 songs from him in that story, and my future, he most of his music is just non-copyrighted. He says go ahead and use it. So that I used it in my God's Not Dead story, which you probably heard, and especially at the end of the song, there was just one of them on there, and I really liked the one on there. So yeah, there we go. 22 minutes. This one will cut down to 20 minutes, probably less, because I coughed a bit and I said nothing for a minute. But yeah, anyways, if you listen this far, you're really great guy or gal. Thank you for listening to this episode of Seriously Funny. Thank you so much. Again, if you listen this far, you probably like the podcast. Leave a review, 5-star, wherever the crap you're listening, especially if you listened this far in. Much love. Don't look back. Peace.